I've seen 5. And it is the most inhumane, cruel, and unusual hypocrisy of a system that promises to be just.
I'll ask you to leave your personal politics out of this.
And I'd ask you to do exactly the same. The Supreme Court was intended to be free and unadulterated by politics. It is now dominated by it. You're handpicked by presidents with ideological agendas. And of the 24 5-4 decisions in your 2006-2007 term, 19 broke straight across ideological lines. That's politics. And while you claim to be against judicial activism, you rewrote, check that, invented new law to decide a presidential election, for God's sake. If that's the way it's going to be, then at least have the decency to put your names on ballots like the rest of the politicians, so that we, the people, get a voice.
Mr. Schor, you have said quite enough. Now, you might consider using what little time you have remaining to represent your client instead of your own left-wing agenda.
Yes. I absolutely cannot stand up here and ask anybody to excuse the rape of a child. If it were my child, I'd want to shoot the son of a bitch in front of the courthouse. But the more evolved response would be to take into account all the circumstances and to deliberate and decide whether Leonard Serra truly represents the worst of humanity for whom we reserve the death penalty. I've been advised by my advisors not to talk about Leonard, but I am going to talk about him because Leonard Serra is not in any way the worst. Leonard is not a son of a bitch. Emotionally, intellectually, he is a child. Is this really the person to make an example of? Of all the men Louisiana has prosecuted for child rape since the passage of this law, only Leonard has been sentenced to death. Does it strike any of you as fair that the one guy singled out is the one with an IQ of 70? Really? Leonard Serra is black. In Louisiana, historically, it's been blacks that have been executed for rape in non-homicide cases. In the last 100 years, Louisiana has executed 29 men for rape. All were black. On the face of this building, it reads, equal justice under law. I would beg you to honor that. And finally, I'd like to say, despite my tone, I have always been, and still am, in enormous awe of this institution. Elected officials represent the will of the American people, but the Supreme Court has always reflected our soul and our conscience. My conscience, and I hope yours, simply cannot reconcile executing a mentally disabled man, whether he was officially pronounced as such or not. We have to be better than that. Even if Louisiana isn't. You know, on the back of this building is that magnificent sculpture, part of which symbolizes the concept of justice tempered by mercy. If mercy truly lives within these walls, within your hearts as justices, as people, you cannot cause this man to be injected with chemicals for the purpose of killing him for a crime it's very possible he did not commit. He asked me to tell you that he did not commit it. He felt it was important that you know that. He also asked me to tell you he doesn't want to die.